here on Flow FM. Great to catch up with Sean Hickey, agricultural analyst at Pro Farmer Australia. Sean, how are you going?
Good, thanks, Ricky. Thanks for having me on.
It's a pleasure, and we have some great growing conditions. A lot of wet and challenges getting into paddocks, but nonetheless, looks like on the grains and canola front, a big harvest on its way.
Yeah, that's right. I think we're estimating a winter crop total at around just over 55 million tonnes for this season, so another really large crop for the third year in a row, which is fantastic for growers. It is leading to some softening of prices given that large crop, but overall really positive.
As we've talked with analysts about grains and canola over the recent years, certainly since February, Russia's activity in Ukraine has been a big factor. Has there been many developments on that front after, I guess, a recent Ukrainian pushback?
Yeah, obviously we've recently actually seen over the last couple of days global wheat futures kind of surge higher. And that comes after the Russian president kind of announced that partial mobilisation that you would have seen in the news over the last few days. So that's really raised concerns over Ukraine's export corridor agreement, and markets are worried that agreement may no longer be recognised by Russia. So markets are pretty concerned about global supply and food security issues that kind of might come out of that should the export corridor agreement not be recognised anymore. So yeah, certainly going to have an impact on global wheat and potentially corn prices over the next week or so, depending on what happens there.
All right, so that's the impact on futures markets. I imagine it's too soon for that to be felt in any real sense in the Australian markets. How are we tracking, say, compared to world prices?
Yeah, we've seen a real softening in prices across both grain and canola markets over the past fortnight, and that's partially driven by that large crop on the horizon that I did mention. I suppose in terms of wheat, we're seeing a similar situation to last season's big crop. So we've got that large crop, the constrained export capacity, and then potential quality concerns as well, brought about by that heavy rainfall we've seen on the East Coast. So buyers are pretty happy to sit back and just see how things turn out. So we're not really seeing those international price increases kind of flow through into Aussie prices. I suppose in terms of canola at a domestic level, we've really seen prices kind of decline over the last month or so. And that's kind of driven by a couple of factors. We've seen canola harvest across Canada kick off, and there's been pretty strong production there. So that's really weighing on global markets. And then a general decline in crude oil and palm oil markets, also kind of adding some downwards pressure into the local canola market. So yeah, short term there's some pressure there too. So it has been a bit of a story of, I suppose, weakening prices over the last couple of weeks.
Yeah, I guess in the short term, a bit of a weakening, but going by all the fields of gold across our broadcast areas, farmers still gone into it pretty heavily with, I think in historical levels, we're still sitting at a pretty decent canola price.
Yeah, that's right. When you compare it historically, it is still quite strong. And that bodes really well for producers. I think we're estimating a crop of around 6.3 million tonnes, that's nationally, and that's again that'll be the second largest canola crop on record, second only to last year. So yeah, prices are still generally pretty good, and then really strong production. So that's going to help those growers kind of offset the higher input costs that have come about this year.
Now, you mentioned earlier some congestion in a sense when it comes to getting the crop out of the country, I suppose. South Australia was seeing some premium because we had a more diverse range of options in South Australia. Are we still seeing a bit of differentiation in price across SA, Victoria and New South Wales?
We are, yeah. We've seen SA probably hold up a little bit better than we have on the East Coast, though admittedly for those higher protein wheat grades, they're holding up quite well everywhere. I suppose prices across SA, we've kind of seen Port Adelaide feed barley prices around $3.20 a tonne. We've seen new crop canola in South Australia around that $7.45, and then we've also kind of seen your APW1 price around that $415 a tonne, and they're kind of at a slight premium to what you're probably seeing in New South Wales and Victoria as well. So yeah, that does tend to be the case, and that's probably going to be the case coming into harvest as well.
Now, Sean, just before I let you go, I understand that Pro Farmer is a branch of Rural Bank. What's the relationship there?
Yeah, Rural Bank purchased Australian Crop Forecasters and Pro Farmer Grain a number of years ago, so we've been integrated for quite a while.
So, and your website address, if people want to find out more about projections about where things might be going?
Yep, just www.profarmergrain.com.au. So we've got free subscription, which will enable you to look at prices across various sites and port zones right across the country. And then we have a number of subscription services as well, where we offer various forecast reports and pricing reports that go into greater detail and do offer some commentary.
Thanks, Sean. You can hear more from Pro Farmer Grain at profarmergrain.com.au. Thanks for joining us today on Flow.
No worries at all, Ricky. Thanks for having me on.